Greetings, YouTube. Today I'd like to talk about a real person. Not someone I've ever met, but someone I've interacted with before through the D&D Usenet group. His name is Shawn Wilson. Now, this is about a real person. I'm assuming that's his real name. It's the only name I know him by. It could be a handle that he uses. Um, and I bring up a real person to make a point later here. Let me tell you a little bit about Shawn. Shawn purports to be an economist. He has claimed that he is an economist for as long as I have ever known him, and everyone that has ever interacted with him will agree that he continues and always has called himself an economist. Now, what's interesting is that there appears to be zero proof that Shawn is actually an economist. Now, there are three basic criteria that could be, if you matched any of them, you could reasonably, arguably be called an economist. First, you could have a degree in economy. You got a degree in economy, you're an economist, okay? Shawn doesn't have a degree in economy. And from people who have gathered information about Shawn over the year, from offhand comments, it appears that Shawn's never actually graduated from college with anything, though he has taken some economic classes. And as someone pointed out, someone who has never graduated from college, who has taken some classes, is a student. So maybe Shawn is a student of economy, but he is not a scholar of economy, nor is he a graduate with a degree in economy. You could also be paid to be an economist. There's nothing to say that a company could not hire you as an economist, even without a degree. I have a friend who is an engineer, works as an engineer, and has worked for an engineer for, I guess, close to 30 years. He never actually finished getting his engineer degree. He's like 2 credits away from it. In fact, he even reapplied to the same school to go back and finish it, and he didn't. He's a procrastinator of the first water. Probably the best procrastinator I've ever met. Makes me pale in comparison. But Shawn has never been paid by any company to be an economist. So he fails in that regard as well. And lastly, if you have had articles on economy published in a peer-reviewed economic publication, magazine, journal, something like that, you could reasonably be described as an economist because people in the economic field consider you to be one of their peers. Shawn has never done this as well. So, he has failed in all three of these regards, yet he continues to call himself an economist. I'm going to link to a short thread, 31 posts, I think, it's from the Usenet. It's been saved on some archive somewhere. I'll reference the archive, where someone challenges Shawn to prove that he is an economist using his personal definition of the term. And then using that definition to show, verifiably, objectively, that you do fit the definition you yourself have picked. Shawn has not done it. He has never been able to defend himself. And to the best of anyone's knowledge, Shawn may very well never have held a job and literally lives in his parents' basement, completely dependent on other human beings, even though he is also a staunch libertarian believing in personal responsibility kind of thing. Now, having said all that, the even wackier concept about Shawn Wilson is that because he is an economist, Shawn Wilson considers himself a master of all fields of knowledge. That economics, in Shawn's opinion, is the core of all knowledge. And all knowledge can be traced back to economics. Everything can be traced back to economics. It is the most severe case of engineer's disease I have ever encountered. And it's even worse than traditional engineer's disease, because a traditional engineer's disease is where you have an engineer or a scientist who is an expert in their field and eventually comes to think that because they are an expert in one field, they can then consider themselves to be experts in all fields. But Shawn isn't even an expert in a single field, in any field. Yet he still feels that his expertise means that he is a master of all their fields of knowledge. It's amazing. It really is. Now, having said all that for 5 minutes, Why do I bring this up? Well, eventually, Shawn got around to discussing healthcare. This is a long time ago. I believe it might have been during the Bush administration, or maybe even the beginning of the Obama administration when they were talking about the ACA, the Affordable Care Act. And Shawn's answer to the problem of people not being able to afford and access health care, particularly people with pre-existing conditions such as myself, a diabetic, and people who get sick and then need some kind of medical coverage, say if they get cancer. He said that the solution is available, and you should know what it is. He was just pulling people in, trying to make himself seem mysterious and as though he was knowledge, speaking from a position of authority. Shawn was good at all these manipulative kind of games. And eventually I bit and I said, okay, Shawn, tell me, what is the answer? And he says, debt. Shawn's answer to the healthcare problem is that if you are ill, you could then get a loan from some financial organization to take care of your medical issues. Stop and think about that for a second. What sort of a financial organization is going to offer loans to people who are ill, who may have debilitating, lifelong medical problems that are never going to go away and may get worse over time, may very likely get worse over time, or people who have just been diagnosed with stage 2 or 3 or 4 cancer? What kind of an interest rate are you going to get on that loan? And how are you going to pay it off? What's going to be your collateral? Your soul? So when he said that, I said, well, Shawn, you're out of your friggin' mind. And I blocked him and I never spoke to him again. I couldn't. For me, that was the breaking point. He kept going, of course. Every once in a while, I would read a reply to Shawn because the other person was not blocked. And his insanity was still present. And he was just chugging along in his delusional world where he's an economist, master of all knowledge, and he has the answer to everything. And the answer to healthcare is debt. So now why do I bring all this up? Why am I discussing Shawn Wilson, super economist? Because it is that frame of mind that I still encounter today in debates about healthcare. That the people who think they have the answers, particularly of the Libertarian and the Tea Party set, don't have any fucking clue what they're talking about. If I may borrow the phrase, they're not even wrong. They've gone so far off the deep end that they know nothing. Absolutely nothing. And yet they are experts. And yet they are complete masters of the solution to the problems around them. Even though their solutions are not being used by them, could not be used by them because that would not work, and would not work for anyone else. But they'll tell you that they will. And just as delusional as Shawn Wilson is, so are all these other people. And it terrifies me. And it saddens me. And it isn't anywhere near as humorous as Shawn Wilson is. So when someone says something like, taxation is theft, I think they're Shawn Wilson. When they say, the solution to healthcare is personal responsibility and screw everyone else, I just want to take care of myself, I think of Shawn Wilson. When I think that about someone that believes the invisible hand will solve their problems of healthcare, I think of Shawn Wilson. And it isn't a favorable comparison. And it isn't a compliment. He is just the best example of a particularly delusional view of the world. And yet I encounter it again and again and again. Now, I don't know who Shawn Wilson voted for in the November election because I haven't been in contact with Shawn for ages. But it wouldn't shock me if he voted for the Jester King. That he didn't embrace wholeheartedly the Putin-like strongman image put forth by Feces Rex. That would just be just like Shawn Wilson to do that. So I'm asking my viewers who have lasted this long, have you encountered this out there in the real world when dealing with the fringes of the GOP base? Do you know Shawn Wilson? Are you Shawn Wilson? Hi, Shawn! Do you know people like Shawn Wilson? I'm interested in knowing. So I gotta tell you, if there's a whole lot of Shawn Wilsons out there, I am going to be depressed.